For 10 long years, a Labrador lived chained to a short rope in a forgotten backyard. Rain, sun, cold, or heat, nothing ever changed. He never ran, never played, never knew freedom. Only the heavy silence of iron pressing against his neck. People who passed by looked away. To everyone, he was just a dog without a future. But inside him, something never died: hope. Then, on one unlikely day, someone finally stopped. And what happened next did not only change this dog's life, it changed everything. The backyard where the Labrador lived was small and forgotten, surrounded by rotting wooden boards that creaked in the wind. On the ground there was no grass, only hard dirt marked by the circle the chain had carved around him. Every step was limited, every movement cut short by the metallic sound of iron pulling against his collar. In summer, the heat burned his paws and made the metal scalding. In winter, frost froze his water and left him shivering night after night. The seasons passed, the years stacked one upon another, but nothing ever changed. And yet, inside him, memories still lingered. Fragments of a different life, like distant echoes. He remembered running through a green field, the wind pushing back his ears as he chased a red ball. He remembered the small hands of a child sinking into his soft fur, laughter ringing through the air. These moments came like flashes, brief and painful, but they were what kept him alive. People walking past the street could hear the chain dragging on the ground. Some neighbors glanced over, others quickened their pace. To some he was just the chained dog. To others he had become part of the landscape, like a shadow no one wanted to face. But for the Labrador, every day was a wait. He waited for something he didn't know would ever come. He waited for someone who would look at him and see more than a chained dog. Even while chained, the Labrador never stopped dreaming. Each time the wind slipped through the broken boards of the yard, carrying the distant sound of children playing, his eyes lit up as if he was reliving a forgotten moment. The constant drag of the chain on the ground was the sound of his prison, but also a reminder that he was still alive, that he could still wait. At night, he lay on the cold earth and listened to the neighborhood dogs barking in the distance. It was as if they were calling to him, reminding him that there was a world outside where he could run free. He answered only with a gaze, fixed on the gate, waiting. Memories returned in flashes, always with sounds attached. The bounce of a ball against the ground, the laughter of a child who once hugged him without fear, the soft whisper of a voice calling his name. All of it clashed with the present. Silence, chains, solitude. Yet inside him, something was unbreakable. A love that never disappeared, even when nothing was given back. He still believed that one day someone would walk through that gate and return what he longed for most: freedom and affection. That morning, the sound of the chain was interrupted by something different. Steady, determined footsteps approached the gate. The Labrador lifted his head, ears alert, tail tapping softly against the dirt. It wasn't like the other times, when curious neighbors glanced from a distance and kept walking. This time, someone entered. It was a woman with a resolute look in her eyes. In her hand, she carried a small rusty saw and a length of new rope. She moved closer, knelt down, and reached out her hand. The Labrador hesitated, stepping back for a moment. 10 years of silence and neglect had taught him not to trust so easily. But her eyes were different. There was no indifference, no rush, only compassion. The sound of the saw lighting into metal echoed through the yard, mixed with the pounding of the dog's heart. The chain resisted, as if it refused to let go, until finally it snapped with a sharp crack. The Labrador took a cautious step beyond the circle of dirt that had confined him for so long. He looked around, bewildered. For a moment, he stood frozen, as if he couldn't believe what was happening. Then In a single movement that shattered a decade of loneliness, he leapt into the woman's chest. The embrace was immediate, overwhelming. His tail wagged wildly. His whole body trembled between fear and joy. For the first time in 10 years, he felt what it meant to be free. In the days after his rescue, the Labrador began to adjust to his new life. He had a soft bed, fresh food, and gentle hands that stroked him whenever he lay down. But there was something strange about his behavior. Every day, at the same hour, he stopped at the gate and pulled hard on the leash, as if he wanted to return to the place where he had spent the last 10 years. Curious, the new family decided to follow him. The Labrador walked quickly, leading them back to the old yard that now stood empty. When they arrived, he began digging frantically near the fence. His paws struck the hard earth, uncovering the dry metallic clatter hidden beneath. What they found there left everyone in shock. Buried under the soil were broken chains, small bones, and toys worn by time. He had not been the only one. Other dogs had been there, chained and forgotten, never given the same chance to survive. The Labrador had not only wanted his freedom, he wanted to tell the story of those who never had it. The revelation spread quickly. Neighbors who once turned away now felt a heavy sense of regret. Authorities were called, and the yard became a symbol of the fight against cruelty. And at the center of it all was him, the dog who had not forgotten, the Labrador who carried not only his pain, but also the voice of all the others. Over time, the Labrador grew strong again. The once fragile body gained weight and vigor. His coat began to shine under the sun, and his eyes, once marked by pain, now reflected trust and joy. He no longer trembled in fear when a hand reached toward him. Instead, he leaned in, seeking affection, as if he had decided to believe again. People in the town began to know him. Stories of his survival and courage spread. Schools invited the new family to share his story. Animal protection groups used his image as a symbol of hope, and neighbors who once ignored the chain now brought him toys and treats. But what impressed everyone most was the dignity he carried. He never forgot the years of silence, yet he refused to let them define his future. He ran free across open fields, leapt with joy when he saw his family, and every movement showed the resilience of one who endured the worst without losing his spirit. In the end, his story became more than a rescue. It became a universal reminder. No matter how heavy the chains, love always has the power to break them. The love and loyalty of a dog know no limits. Even after years of suffering, a faithful heart can be reborn when someone chooses to see it with compassion. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe. There are more stories of courage, loyalty, and second chances waiting for you here.